Well, let's return to one of our lead story on the alarm raised by the NCDC over the resurgence of COVID-19 in the country, saying it has recorded an increase in new cases. And we have on phone Dr. Egbutta Agbo, a health expert, to bring his points to bear on this recent development. So good to have you on the News at 10 tonight. So what do you make of the rise of new infections in Nigeria today?
Basically, the rise of the new infection rates in Nigeria is not an isolated occurrence. If we follow the global trend, it has been reported in all parts of the world, from Europe to America and then part of Asia. So we have had countries who have experienced a spike. So this is not an isolated finding. Again, this is basically an evidence-based and an evidence-driven finding, because we had predicted that even after the first wave, as most Nigerians become infected and develop antibodies to to SARS-CoV-2, what is expected to happen is that after about 3 or 4 months or thereabouts, the antibodies begin to wane. So whatever protection or herd immunity that you expect would have waned off, and then you have a susceptible population that is on exposure again. It's expected to develop infection. Again, before now, prior to now, we had a robust response by the Public Health Department, the Federal Ministry of Health, and NCDC. But over time, we have seen that Nigerians have, because basically they've seen that the numbers were dropping and their guards were let down, and people had resorted to their normal interaction without taking the necessary measures like social distancing, maintaining hand hygiene, and using face masks. So what we've seen is the immunity has waned. The herd immunity that may have been developed is also transient and has been lost within 3 months, and that Nigerians have resorted to their previous health behaviors, devoid of social distancing and use of face masks, personal protective equipment, and maintenance of hand hygiene to a large extent. So based on this, it's imperative that there has to be a robust response. We have to educate our people for us to go back to those practices that in the first case, reduced the number of cases that were presenting at our health centers. The other issue is the issue of whether the federal government is going to institute a lockdown. The initial lockdown resulted in some fallouts, which included security, breakdown of laws in certain areas of the country and all that. So it required a huge and robust financial war chest in terms of funding for palliatives and all that. The question is, does the federal government have the capacity to do palliatives across Nigeria for a population of 206 million people? These are the questions we need to answer. And does the federal government have the capacity to keep people away from school like we've had for most of the year today? The federal government also have the capacity to respond robustly across health centers and health facilities in the nation. This, again, is a major challenge. So we need to rethink and not just copy what is happening in all parts of the world. We cannot basically do what is happening in Europe and say we're going to institute lockdown. We need to get our best brains to sit down, recheck the whole system, and agree on the strategies to use. We also need to leverage
well, I'm afraid that we cannot continue any further. Dr. Egbutta Agbo, we appreciate your insights on the News at 10 tonight.